Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you, as always. And tonight we're going to do aliens with my co-host Lucky Stone and our special guest David Null. Thank you for both of you for coming on tonight. We are going to be talking. We're going to review the book about the aliens. Where did I put that? Yeah. Nope. Tonight we're going to do cowboys. Oh, it's the alien book. Oh, the alien. There. The
alien cowboys.
Alien versus Cowboys book. Yes. That is a good book. I'm going to kind of review that because I bet you a lot of people don't know anything about that. Anyway, I happened to snag that on one of my adventures. So, and as yesterday I was on an adventure through the, oh man, people, I tell you, there is vast country out there like you've never seen before. Uninhabited, wild and free, just as there was back in the day. I tell you what, emptiness and nothingness, and just all around in Montana. I went to Montana, and the further out you get, the better vehicle you better have because you don't want to break down. There is nobody out there. Ranch is probably so big that you see the mailbox on the side of the road and you cannot see their house. And there's no trees to get in the way. It was amazing. And I'm going to put out some videos this week of my adventure. I was going to do it as I went, but unfortunately in Montana, in those remote areas, there's really not a lot of internet or cell phone service. So you're winging it the whole entire way. No wonder why people are nicer when you're out there, because people have to be nice. If you're not nice and you're stranded, you're going to depend on others. And that's a lesson we need to learn.
That's true.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I don't think about that so much. They think that we got to just be ourselves and blah, 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 whatever. But anyway, I went out west and I found one of those barn find cars. Like you wouldn't believe. Back in the day, maybe some of you will jog your memories and say, wow, that is pretty cool. But I'm going to just play this while people start coming in and because before we get too far started. So here's my video and my relic from the past that I have acquired. Okay.
Hey, well, car is loaded and I am on the road. Look at that. Here we are. Look at that nice old interior, whatever it is. Setting pretty good. Everything looks pretty good. Yada, yada, yada. We're on the road, boys and girls. Dogs are ready.
Oh yeah, just a short one. But anyway, that was me with the car loaded up, and that's a 1970 Ford Galaxy 500.
Oh boy.
46,000 original miles.
46,000?
46,000.
Holy.
I drove a Galaxy and put that many miles on it.
Yeah,
It was a government vehicle.
Yeah, you're old enough. You probably drove quite a few of those Galaxies around back in the day. But yeah,
Does it have the 289 in it?
No, it has got the 390. The 390, 390 two barrel.
289 would scream.
Oh yeah. And the 390 was a special option. You had to order that special, but there's no air conditioning in it. It's pretty basic. Yeah. It does have disc brakes in the front, which are great, especially for those years, because it's a bigger motor. I don't know if it came with, but I'm not sure exactly how much horsepower the 390 had and in that era. But I'm going to Google that. Why not?
It
Ford.
will scare you.
Yeah, and it runs like the day it was new.
Run. Wow.
Yeah, it runs. It runs really good. You hit the key and it starts right up, and it sounds immaculate. Just idles beautifully.
That's crazy.
I can't remember. Some of those came stock with a 4-barrel, a Holly 4-barrel.
Yes,
That might have
yes,
been
they
the
did.
289.
Yeah, I'm looking up some of the specs. I know it doesn't have the 4-barrel. I'm trying to find it here. It does say, it says horsepower and torque varied over the years, peaking at 401 horsepower in 1961 and 62. In 67 and 69, the Ford 390 produced 335 horsepower and the 427 pounds of torque. The 390 became even more well known in 67 thanks to Ford Mustang. Let's see. In 1972. Search. It says here the 2-barrel is rated at even the 2-barrel was rated at 265 horsepower at 4,100 RPMs, while the 4-barrel version was rated at 220 horsepower. Wow. So my car's got 265 horsepower streaming under the hood, right from the factory. Kind of interesting facts today. Not that y'all wanted to hear about. Lori Elderkin says, I had a 70. Nice. Cool. Yeah, I had several. This will be my, second or third one. This is probably the best. Yeah, I've had multiples throughout the years.
I had a 74 Chevy Malibu, and I was always messing around with that. My girlfriend at the time hated that car because anywhere we'd go, I'd stop and go, it doesn't sound right. And I would pull up the thing and I would adjust the tack and dwell. You know, and I would just, I always had to just do it, just sounded just right. And that stupid car, I went through a fence once by accident because I took it wide. It just demolished the fence, and the car didn't have a scratch on it.
Wow. What year was that?
74 Chevy Malibu. It had a big engine on it. Thing drank gas. Just nothing.
Yeah, but back in
two-door or four-door?
Four-door.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Vinyl top. That was immaculate.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, those were quite the cars. Here we go. I'm going to share with you because if you know, this is sold, if people don't know what those cars. Oops. There we go. There's a Chevy Malibu, 74. Never had a 74 Chevy Malibu. That's
Thing ran like a dream. It was a blue, like a dark blue. Body was solid. Everything was solid. The muffler fell off one day, and just put a new one on. No problem.
Yeah.
I replaced the brake lines and the fuel line because literally I was skinny then too. I could crawl under the damn thing without jacking it up because it was so raised up. It was, and of course when you're working in the engine, you could like sit in there. It was so much room. Now, now nothing. There's room for. I changed the radiator 3 times because I kept buying used radiators. You just pull everything up, pop it back in, plenty of room to work. It was easy. I mean, it changed the alternator just once. It was solid, no problem there.
Yeah. You know, yeah. That's what it looked like. I mean, thought I'd keep you all. Oops, sorry. Wrong.
Oh, the back door. Yeah.
But anyhow, you know, it's one of those things. People forget about that stuff. You know, I think we lived through that era, and now we're on to something new where you buy a car and you just throw it away, and you get a new car. You don't fix them. The insurance won't cover it. You can't fix it yourself because there's too many do jobs and things like that. Oh, is it that sensor? Or is that thing? Is this? Heck, even the technicians don't know how to do it unless they got a computer.
Yep, it's all computerized. Yeah, chips and everything.
Yep, chips and everything. So anyway, well, let's get back on with the show. I just thought I want to share, and it's always nice. David, what's one of the better cars that you've ever had?
Oh, I had a 1962 Austin Healey, and it was a Mark IV with overdrive. It had front disc brakes. It had 6 forward gears. It had 4 on the floor and 2 overdrive on electric on the dash, and that thing would fly. I took on a going to Orlando one time to pick up a friend of mine, and I was on I-4 heading from Tampa to Orlando, and there was this Porsche that thought he was all that, and me in my little hippie uniform back there. Then I was a real hippie back then. You know, I downshifted into 4th overdrive, into 4th low, and then shifted up, and he kept shifting, and I kept looking at him, and it was one of those things where neck and neck, and then I shifted into 6th, and he had no more guts in that poor little car. And he was like hollering out the window, and I just waved at him. You know, me and my little Austin Healey. And then I come to find out that I had to sell it for like $125 because it was sitting on blocks, and I was in Georgia and it was in Tampa. And I come to find out that car is worth like $50,000 now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, boy, I bet you wish you had that car. Even if it was still sitting on blocks, it'd be worth a pile of money, man.
Yep, because of it was brought over by a guy from McDill in Tampa, from England, so they didn't sell them over here.
Yeah, it's a rare car to have, you know, and like you said, it's fun to drive, and it's a rare car. And, oh boy, what you wouldn't give to have that car now, right?
Yeah,
anyway.
buddy.
Oh well, it's the way the world works. I know. At
least I owned it. I got to drive it, you know.
Yeah.
I got to drive it and have fun with it, and okie doke.
Oh, I just think about all the Torinos and Mustangs and, you know, Galaxies and, you know, cars, big LTDs, everything. I had them all, man. I would go through cars like water. But that's besides the point. Ooh,
Yep.
But anyway, Gene Hutchinson is in the house. Thank you for commenting tonight. Max G, Mark the Spark Arc, Lori Elderkin, welcome all. Anyway, tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about this book and doing a little bit of review, the Alien Interview. I haven't seen it. If you haven't read it, I do have the PDF for it, and I do have book. You can get the book off of eBay or Amazon, and or you can go back and watch my shows and review the book because I read the whole darn thing that you need to be reading. So, but there is a lot of stuff in the back of the book, all the notes they had that point to stuff that they did and information. It's literally half the book. I haven't really gone through all of that, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. But what do you all have? I mean, you both know a little bit about this book. What's your take on it? Lucky? You're taking that deep breath. What's your take on it?
I don't know how to put it gently, but I think it's created more of a disinformation because it seems like there's some great information in there. Then there's just out and out just doesn't quite fit, not quite right. And I do think that's, psyops, that's what they do. They go, okay, how can we the information is going to get out there. How can we change it? How can we make it sound ridiculous? We'll attach these things onto it so that the real stuff is just passed off and ignored because of all the ridiculous attached to it. And that's the problem. This thing has got good, but also some parts that are ridiculous. And I don't have the notes that I remember, but I can't remember exactly. But some things it would come in good, then it would change and go, wait, that doesn't sound quite right. That sounds ridiculous. And, that's when the first time I read it, I thought I read it for pure entertainment and it was fine. But then it became more serious that this might be real, and you can't trace the woman down. But again, there might be a real person this is based off of. But they had to make it disinformation, and attach a fake person that you can look and go, this person doesn't exist. There's so many yes and no's with it. Okay, yeah. Then wait, that doesn't make any sense. And then there's a lot of that in that book.
Yes, it made me feel like it was everything I wanted to hear. And then some. David, what's your take? You froze up? Oh, hey, there you go. You're moving.
Now, are we talking about?
Talking about the alien interview.
We are talking about the alien interview.
Yes. What's your take on that book?
Okay. All right. I would. I've been listening to UFOs and stuff for a long time. I'll be 71 in 2 months, and have seen a few myself. But in listening to some other people over the years, like I knew about Bob Lazar because it was on a VHS tape, that I rented from the local, place back in the late 90s. And on some of the other things that I picked up, one of them, and I'm trying to remember his name, John Lear. And I'm not sure if he's still alive. I know he was really sick. Kerry Cassidy interviewed him a bunch of times, and he was a test pilot. And John Lear, his father, owned, the Lear Jet Company kind of thing. Well, John was subject to a lot of stuff. And like him and Bob Lazar was out there in one night when they got caught, by the Area 51 police kind of thing. And that's when Bob lost his job out there. But so John was around for a long time, and he was around early on. So some of the things that I've heard in his interviews, he was like, well, there was a lady who, that interviewed somebody from a crashed alien thing. Oh, really? Well, now, whether or not it was this one, I don't know. But I remember John saying something about it, and that, there are some things that, some of the generals and so forth were so forthcoming. And you know how generals can be. You need somebody that with a little bit of empathy, so I can understand where some of the premise of this, I'm going to call it a story, in that, I could see where the communication was more telepathic. I can understand where the female nurse was much more in tune. There are certain things within the structure of this that I get, but there are other things, like Lucky stated, that they just don't quite fit. They just don't fit. So now, whether or not John Lear was lying about some of this stuff, and I doubt it, because he really wanted to tell the truth about aliens and things. And I do think that somebody had an interview with someone, whether or not it's this one, I can't, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that you're right. I think both of you are right in a way, because I think there's a lot of truth in it, but it's got to be messed with a little bit of lying, because if you told too much truth, they would have pulled, the people, they would have pulled the book. And if there's, too many names given, they would have pulled the book. So it's got, and this is how those propaganda institutions work. Even today when they make movies, they consult with the government to make a movie, or the government comes to the movie maker and says, we need a movie to be made about this. Now, why would they do that? Because they need to put it out there to get it in people's heads so that we kind of forget about it, we don't understand it, or we think we know what we understand, to be truthful. But then it's so much of a lie that we can't distinguish between the truth and the lie anymore. And that's what this book represents. I do believe. I think it's trying to sway us from the truth, but it's also got some truth in there so that we're swayed to believe it is true. Now, what parts are true and what aren't, we don't know. That's the question. And how do we now the question is, how do we determine the answers? Do we determine the answers by things that we know or we see? What is the logical way to figure this out? I mean, I've seen some flaws in that book too. Like, how did she get away with that paperwork? This is so secure and you got all that stuff. And how did she just walk out of there? And then they put her in a relocation, change her name and all of that stuff. Okay, that might have happened, but who knows? And then, in that case, was this really her name? Did they ask her to put out this book? Or the author gave him the manuscript and said something. So I guess that's way. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that there was a woman, but I think she was only a patsy. Her job was to get the information to him, and from there, because they knew that some of this information was going to get out there, and they need to hide it. So it's the truth is in there along with attached to things that attach to it, so that when you hear it, you're like, oh, I remember that story. That's ridiculous. So you hear the truth later, and you realize, well, I've heard it, but back then, you always remember how ridiculous it sounded. So when the truth comes out again, you don't even pay attention anymore, because before it was ridiculous, and now it's come back out again, and I remember that. It's stupid, that kind of thing. So yeah. It's truth with lies, plausible deniability, confuse, they used to confuse, so the people themselves, they hear all of this. I heard the story all before. I don't need to hear it again.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I just got a second.
Well, there are certain points in this, like, for example, I'm looking on page 24 of the interview, and she said, I had communication with Ariel. Now, in some of my long time listening to UFO stuff and, late night with Art Bell, 50 years of listening to this stuff. And that name has come up in other areas. Like, there was this entity and her name was Ariel. And you're like, well, okay, so there's a little bit of like, is that one of those little tiny little tidbits of truth, with the name? Now, the other thing is like, if this information was truly hidden until this gentleman received a letter from Miss McElroy, anyway. So if it was truly hidden and nobody knew the contents, then when the information came out, there was already information out there that's in sort of in this script, okay, like the name Errol. And so, and I was just kind of scrolling down through it to try to refresh my mind, because I read the first part of this on my channel 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I discussing some of this stuff. So, I feel really good in that we can kind of, after I have read this and been through this, all these years ago, that we can bring it up now. Because there's a lot of people who've never heard of it. There's a lot of people who've never heard some of the things that are in the context of this story.
Yeah, but in some good way, it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Some of the
I mean,
things later on, it's like how the earth was, and that the earth is actually. Now, here's a point. Remember what page it was on?
Vicky's frozen. Oh,
One
there
of
we go.
the was how there were, this planet's been visited for a long time. I absolutely agree. I believe
Yeah.
that for a long time, since I was a little kid. So, but this idea though that somehow that this is a prison planet, okay? And so there's been a lot of discussion over the years about the Earth being a prison planet. So one of the subjects was that because we have so much water, and because so many spaceships use water for their propulsion and for their fuel, but that the spaceships have crashed on the planet, but they can't come get them because there's this invisible something, and they can't come in and rescue them. And there was, back in the Himalayas, or the Himalayas, depending on where you're from, where there was a spaceship that crashed there, and supposedly, the Nazis went and tried to find it or something up in the mountains or something. Anyway, but that these beings have been here for so long, but they could not use, Alex Jones is, used to do the prison planet stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Still,
yes, he did. He still talks
there
about
are folks who believe that, don't follow the white light. You might that you need to do this, or that if when your body dies and your soul is leaving you, it's going to hit this invisible grid, and your soul's not going to be able to leave. Did you all hear that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The visible grid.
Okay. Is
You
it
said
being? Yeah. So
yeah.
but other people have talked about it, and not just this book, this story. So, but in the stories, the entity goes into how, oh yeah, this has been a prison planet for a long time. And so because we're way out here on the edge of the solar system, I can almost halfway believe that, and also it has been stated that one of the reasons this is a prison planet is because other entities, other, planets or whatever, if you were a dissident, much like the Chinese and Hitler did during World War II, if you were smart or a banker or something, you were out of here. If you were a musician or something, a lot of times they were executed. Artists, were rounded up and executed. So the prison planet, planet Earth, has and I've thought about this over the years. It's got an extremely large number of talent. Everybody you know has got some kind of little bit of talent like that. So were these entities banned to Earth because of their, political affiliation, if you will? And it's not just one planet, but planets around the solar, or not the solar, but in the galaxy. Oh yeah, you don't like somebody, ship them out there. You don't like this guy. Well, but at the same time, there's a murderer, and they just can't deal with him on another planet. So what do? Exile them here. Put their nasty ass here. So that was sort of described in this, and it's like, but it has been. Wait, I'm almost done. It has been discussed by other people from other venues before this was published, supposedly, on the internet.
Yes, you're right. The thought of us being a prison planet here, you're right. It's been talked about for a long time. It connects all the dots with them saying, hey, we're Isbies, just like, the church says we're a spirit. You cannot be destroyed. Scientists say you can't destroy energy. This alien saying we're just this energy being. You can't, destroy us. So how would you get rid of something like that? You couldn't kill it, but you could exile it. And then, so then that's part of the puzzle. It makes sense. It's like all the pieces are coming together. And why can't we figure out our history? Because they erase our memories. And since every time we have a war or a cataclysm, the winners or the victors keep the history changing until nobody knows what the heck is going on. And even right now, I mean, what makes sense to me is that I'm reading this book and I'm thinking, well, when I was a kid, dinosaurs lived 65 million years ago. You couldn't find anybody that said that they did. And man has been only on the earth for 6,000 years. And, and you could ask your preacher and he would say, yeah, 7,000 years, somewhere in there, okay. And then if you go back, you say, well, the oldest human beings, the caveman, the Neanderthals, they were only out here maybe 12,000 years, but they were stupid. They couldn't do anything. Now, fast forward 50 years, all of a sudden it's, hey, we might have got the timelines messed up a little bit. We're finding human civilizations, 25,000, 30,000, 40,000 years old. Göbekli Tepe, a structure with giant stones, 12,000 years, and they buried it for a reason. Oh my goodness. Our timelines are all wrong. We got to assess the situation here. And I think, David, you were telling me about this, the bone pit in Africa or something. Oh, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
There's a special on Netflix called The Cave of Bones. And I'd heard about this a couple of years ago. I'm sorry. And it's in South Africa. And, they go into this cave and they found a bunch of bones and they went further in the cave and they found some more bones and they went way back in the cave, which shouldn't have any bones. And there is evidence of a burial, which, if somebody just crawled in a cave and died, well, they're the bones. But these were actually buried. And to be able to get back to where they were buried, holy mackerel. But the fact that I don't know, these things that are like 125,000 years old or 250, they're way old from where they are in this cave. And so it's like folks are having to rewrite history again because, well, we weren't here that long ago and so forth. And guess what? So if you've got Netflix, it's on there. Unknown Cave of Bones, yeah. And so, but the fact that they found evidence of a funeral. That was the biggie. It was like, well, finding bones is one thing, but they carved out a spot and dug a hole to put these bones, to put this person in.
Yeah. Well, here it says the fossils uncovered by Lee and his team of the Homo nati or Homo sapiens.
Much like other things, all these archaeologists and stuff, they don't know their rear end from a hole in the ground.
Yeah, but it says, so like they're saying, they're smaller brain sizes. They were alive at a time when the place recently only humans were present, approximately 236,000 to 335,000 years ago. Well, you know what that tells me? That tells me that timelines in history could be wrong. And then the thing is why did they look at this picture of the cave? What?
You said they could be wrong. They are wrong. I'm sorry. That just caught me off guard.
I mean, I'm just saying is they could be wrong, for God's sake. Just like I was saying, a few years back, they were saying when I was in school, humans did, maybe 12,000 years ago, we had Neanderthals. And now they're saying, now it's all changed. Now it's 235,000 years ago. You see what I'm saying? And then my question is why were they in this cave in the first place? Way the hell down there.
No. There's other problems. You can't get in there and see.
Yeah.
If they were using torches, there's not enough oxygen in there. Those are dead-ended. There's no oxygen coming in and out.
Yes.
How did they get in there, stay and bury enough time to bury some? This doesn't make any sense logically.
That's right. Just kind of like the pyramids, or kind of like a lot of these things. Okay, if you're in the front part, I could see a light and a torch.
But they had LED lights.
Yeah, you're going to crawl down this chamber on your hands and knees, get into the bigger chamber, crawl up the mountain, and then go down here and get over into the back. Now, you're right, Lucky. This makes no sense. So you can bury somebody. Yeah, no sense at all, people.
Unless they were cats, unless they were cat people who could see very well in the dark, which even cats need a little bit of light, but this
how many years?
Logically, nothing.
Yep. How old did they say that is in that article?
235,000 to.
Here's my thing. If it was.
He's freezing. Yeah. Bad internet.
Yeah, not working so good today. The other day it was fine. David, we're waiting for you. Maybe you can't hear us. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think you froze.
Say it again. You went swirls. I can't hear Robert.
Okay, yeah, I said it's 235,000 to 300. They give you 100,000 year range there. It could be between.
Okay, so here's my point about that. In that length of time, there could have absolutely been another way in. There could have just simply been another way in that has, with 100,000 years, this is a lot of changes. So, they might be stuck in the back of a cave that might have been at the front of a cave. But to my point, see how close it is to the ground right there? There might have been a way down from the top. But my point is that it might not have looked like that 200,000 years ago.
Here's a good one for you. What if it wasn't a cave 200,000 years ago?
But that's my point. It could have been open space, but I doubt that because of the way the inside of the cave looks. But with the different types of rock that are in there, I can tell that there's been some upheaval. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean all of that could have changed. You know, that could have been, you know, and they're saying this is what they might have looked like. Um, you know, I don't know. I really. And what if they weren't even human? What if they're a different branch of humanity? You know,
They are.
and yeah,
They
and
are. They've
so,
already established that.
oh yeah, so they're not even Homo sapiens. They're like some monkey people or something. But
Well,
these people were,
they're saying it's, you know, they're like hobbits, kind of
yeah,
in between. But
and even if
you know, we
they
don't.
yeah,
You know, Robert, you and I have
go ahead.
discussed it. I think Neanderthal was a whole lot smarter than men give him credit for. You know, caveman didn't
Yes,
survive all that time and not know how to do shit. They knew how to make spears and bows and stuff. Oh no, yeah they did. They had
yeah.
to. They wouldn't have survived. I don't care if they lived in a cave and could barely. No, they would have starved out. There wouldn't have been an old caveman. You know what I mean? That just wouldn't have. So they had to have skills. I mean, monkeys have skills.
Well,
Birds have
here's the thing.
skills.
We all know, you know, I don't know if you know, but there's if we lived in caves, caves are not really, you know, good homes. They may be temporary shelters, but you don't want to live there. The fire doesn't have the smoke has nowhere to go. So why would you live in a cave? And
No one lived in caves. That's already been debunked. The caves are only for storage. They proved that a lot of the primitive people that they built their homes, and the caves are only for storage.
And
yeah,
for defensive, like haul ass to the cave. There's a, you know, a dinosaur coming, you know, but yeah.
yeah. So when you know, but when I was a kid, you know, we had
Yep,
cavemen. I mean,
that's
there was.
yes, exactly. That was the belief.
Didn't you ever watch Land of the Lost? Where did they hide? In the cave with the cavemen, you know?
From the
I
slee
mean,
stacks.
the flea stacks,
Yep.
yes.
I love the slee stacks as a kid. I was a kid who liked the damn lizard people.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is they propagandize us to believe that.
Well, yeah, they
And
want us to believe their thing. Yes.
I got this book, my old book, my trusty book. I almost call it a Bible almost. And it tells us in there, uh, you know, about the flood and how the Chinese, you know, have dates way back to, you know, thousands or to a million years, you know. And I'm thinking, really? Well, you know, and I know the Chinese don't like to share, but then obviously something is going on. If they in the 1800s when they're writing this book, how come they're talking about and they list this off? And if I can find it, I'll read it to you. But
I totally forgot. There were underground cities in China and there are underground cities in Turkey, and they were found
Yes.
by accident. I
yes,
totally forgot about them.
And you know
Yeah,
what?
and
There's
they're
over
huge. They're enormous.
yeah,
I think the ones in Turkey or Arabia or someplace over there up in a mountain that they found, that they actually stored horses and thousands of people inside this mountain. And you'd go in one room and then you'd have to duck down into the next, and then the next one would rise up. They found out that it had a natural circulation because of how the rooms were designed and the passages between them. But they had air holes drilled down through the floor. I mean, is that the same one, Lucky, you're talking about?
And they had running water. They had
What?
natural spring water. Running spring water was going through it. Yes.
I
It
think
was
there was
amazing.
another one too, sort of where the valley of the kings is. They found some up in the mountain. They found carvings and stuff, sort of like the Hopi.
yeah, yeah. Ain't that funny how that works? Okay, I found this little piece. I'm going to read this real quick. Okay, and it says, uh, let's see, Chinese nations who, by their records, make the earth much older than does Moses. But this philosopher on this subject writes as follows: the two words key and she, translated to period and dynasty or family, and of some importance. As they now stand translated, they would make the world very old, since no less than 10 key or periods are numerated. We are in the 10th, whereas in the 232nd she of dynasties of emperors are said to have ruled in China during a course of 276,480 years before Christ, as the lowest computation, and 96,962 900 or 96,220 before Christ. That's years, people. At the highest, with many intermediary calculations by various authors. And I'm thinking, holy cow. So they're talking, just crazy numbers. And yet, who's there? Nobody's talking about this. And this book is from, well, let's see. I gotta make sure it's early 1800s. This is a book from 1832. Now, if they had those numbers and calculations in 1832, how come nobody's been capitalizing and studying on that? Yet, you know what I'm saying? If they knew this kind of stuff in 1832, where'd it go? Why are we like starting over again? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. So we could also talk about, you brought up Göbekli Tepe, and of course there are the pyramids. And of course, Robert, you and I have talked about it, on Tuesdays with native stuff. But, with, the Machu Picchu and all that stuff that is all the way up on top of that mountain. And how did that stuff get there? And how come it no matter, well, somebody says, oh, well, it might have been poured there. I don't care how they got there. They're got there and they're enormous. So, let's not piddle about, well, it might have been this or that. But, it's on top of a mountain, for crying out loud. So, and of course, the not the petroglyphs. What are the Nazca lines and stuff, that can mostly only be seen by the air. So we need to back this up and go, hey, let's talk about aliens. Let's talk about the Anunnaki that's in the Bible, and how did they get here and where were they from? Also, there is old time stories that the giants, some of the really big ones, like 75 footers, were actually here to build the earth. They were some of the first ancients to come here and to plant seeds and to build stuff and to move things around, and and they left. Some of them stayed and some of them got killed out, but then some of them just were gnarly sons of guns and ate people, and even in all of the Grimm's fairy tales and in all of the old stories, I mean, I read a story the other night about Maneater, and he was a giant, and so the history of some of these things goes so far back, but that also, the Hopi and all these other native tribes, like right now, we're in the dog days of summer. Why is that? It's because the dog star in Sirius is prevalent in the southern sky. That's why. But many tribes believe that our ancestors come from the dog star. So we're from outer space, y'all. We are aliens. And we are many generations of them in different forms, in different, before I knew what the Pleiades was, as a little kid, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and like some kind of out of body experience, which I used to have them too as a child. But I've often wondered, somebody told me years ago that I was Palladian. And I was like, okay, but I just don't talk about it much. But there's been a lot of weird things that kind of sort of relate that I might have Palladian ancestry. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to claim
What?
it yes or no, but oh, you got blue eyes, and oh, you have this trait, and oh, you got yours.
Well,
I
that's the thing. I,
just
I I agree. I agree. I think we are
fully
aliens.
believe that.
I mean, I think I'm an alien. I don't think there's on Earth you could see where every other animal developed or came from, and yet where did man come from? We're still trying to figure that out. It doesn't seem like we developed, and I can't tell. I tell you what, when I was in science class, when I was in school, and you probably all were too, and they said my science teacher sat there and said, "Oh, this amoeba developed into a fish, and then the fish developed into a land mammal, and that land mammal developed into a dinosaur and a mammal, and then next thing you know, you had monkeys, and monkeys developed into people. There you go. Here's your timeline." And I sat there going, "Wow, okay." You know what I mean? But I don't
Yeah,
know. Did your science teacher teach you
and
that too?
oh yeah, I mean, and it's still being taught. But the thing is that for a long time I have been, where's the missing link? And I mean, when I was in grade school in the 60s, I was not believing this stuff. And, and I didn't have any reason to, other than it just sounded fishy. It just didn't sound right. And I think that's some of the inner knowledge that some of us retain when we're reincarnated. And so I think this time around, there was a certain amount of information that just kind of stuck with me. And some of these things, like aliens, I just always said, yep, you know, okay. Where other people argue and know they can't exist and blah, blah, blah. I have just been, yeah, I'm, sort of like my Native American folks, who they just know it. They just believe it. It's not an argument. And, with them anyway. But so with this missing link thing, the missing link is the Anunnaki. They came down here and tinkered with things. That's the answer. And it is in the Bible for them folks who want to say, "Ooh, the Bible, it's in there." The Anunnaki, the giants are in there.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so
yeah.
these things did exist. There's still
Yeah.
some the giant of Kandahar that recently over in the Middle East. There are
Yep.
obvious signs of giants. So, but so wait a minute, wait. Where did the giants come from? I mean, did but if you read some
Well,
of the stuff, and I can't remember what, but they either came from, I think they came from Saturn or something, but they
well,
came here
well.
as builders of
We
some type
read the
back in
book.
the
Me and
ancient days.
me and Isby read the book King Og, and in that book, it said that the giants, some of them, were old, and they came from some other place and worshiped other gods. They were not from here. It said they came from the sky and came here, and they weren't originally from here. They were hinting at the fact that they were not originally from, uh, you know, Earth. They came here from some other place. So they didn't worship the moon and they didn't worship the sun. They worshiped something else because they did not come from here. So that just tells you. Then it tells in there. Now, I don't know how true that book is, but it does say that, all of a sudden little people, little selves showed up. And then I think in some ways that book does make show or some, how should I say, some sense, because it's talking about how things were dying. And the giants were dying too. They were dying because they couldn't reproduce. And neither could the animals, and the plants were dying. Everything was dying off, couldn't reproduce. And if you can't reproduce, there's less to eat. And there was less to eat. The giants were out in the oceans trying to, catch the bigger fishes and things like that because they didn't have anything to eat. But if you were a small person, like they said, the smaller selves, well, you didn't need all that food. You needed a little bit of food to survive. And that makes sense then. Does it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, this could have all been not just 10,000 or 20,000. This could have been 100,000 years ago or 200,000 years ago. And we just can't remember. Our records just don't go back because something happened, I would say 12,000 years ago, that kind of left us in the dark. That's my thoughts.
I think there are, Lucky, you got something to say? I keep jumping in here.
There's too much to unpack, so go on.
What?
There's too much to unpack.
Oh, I see.
I'm a biologist. I'm an educated biologist. I have a master's degree in genetics and embryology. So what you guys have said has been so off the mark, but I can't get you back on there. So you continue with yours because that's the problem.
Okay.
Yes, if you look at the development of the human fetus, it has gills, and early human fetuses and early chicken embryos look the same. So humans are from Earth. And like you said, we're all aliens. No. Are you an American? You were born here. So we were born, so we might have had alien DNA put into us. But we're still Earthlings. We're not aliens. We belong here.
Oh yeah, that definitely now. Yeah, for sure. We've adapted, and just like anything else, you put something in an environment.
I agree with you. I agree with you. In ancestry,
it adapts. Yes. So no, that was great input. I didn't know that. That's.
But again, you're trying to take a lot of information and put it into a brief thing, and I'm trying to pull out like, oh my God, you've gone here and here and here and here, and then go. And monkeys, humans did not evolve from monkeys. Monkeys are a whole different line.
Yes, because they look like us doesn't make us up.
And amoebas, we're not related to amoebas whatsoever. Amoebas are a whole different cell line. So yeah, but again, that was my education. I work in pharmacology. I look in pharmacy. I work in the ridiculous thing, and that's a business in itself and wrong. What's happening in pharmacology is off the mark entirely. I take so many vitamins and minerals and got off of all the drugs that my company produces, because I looked into it. So yeah, it's easy to be focused on education and get so far off the mark again, but also it's easy to get far off the mark from taking all the information, trying to truncate into something small.
Yeah,
it's a lot of information.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot. Like I said, most people are speculating, and when this we were reading them, get back to the alien book, Ariel's saying, hey, a lot of this stuff was really engineered in part of the book, and it says that, hey, we engineered it, and it took a long time. We're talking thousands of years to make sure it fit into place with everything else. So one thing didn't destroy the other, and it lived in harmony, which makes a lot of sense too, because you can't just introduce something in, like we'll just use an aquarium. A lot of people have had aquariums, and if you have fish in there, I've done it myself, and then I went out and I caught some baby panfish or whatever it was, and I put them in with my goldfish. What do you think happened?
It depends how big, which one was bigger.
Well, they're all about the same size. I had some pretty good sized goldfish, and I put in these little bitty panfish, you know, or whatever the heck they were. I don't know, bluegills or something, but they were small. They were small. But
Bluegills in a small tank. The bluegills are kind of aggressive.
they are, and they killed
Yeah.
most of my goldfish. In like a day or two, they were just like piranhas. I thought, oh my God,
Because they were trying to defend their territory, and all the
Yes.
tank was their territory. Yeah.
yes. Even though I just introduced them, you know, the goldfish are just swimming around, having a good time, and you know. So anyway,
Well, I want to go back to the alien thingy and long time ago. You know, there's a lot of evidence that the Anunnaki, sure enough, had something to do with our evolution. Okay, what they did specifically, but Lucky, isn't the top pair or something of our DNA strand like swapped or something? It's
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're
on our
talking about.
DNA. There's one of
I
the
know DNA. Yes.
one of them is like twisted or something, and we're the only animals on the planet that have that.
chromosomes. You're talking about chromosomes.
There are 42
Yeah,
of
yeah.
them.
No,
Yeah.
it's
I don't know.
anyway.
anything about
It's they're not. Everything else is side by side, and then there's these that are like crossed over diagonally or something.
Not that I don't know anything about that. That might be something that it might be recent. The way
No,
things
it's
are,
not-
there's so much.
It's not recent. It's just that we're the only ones that have that cross thing. Anyway,
I've never heard of that. So that's the thing. If it wasn't recent, I don't know anything about it.
I'll
Cross
have to
DNA.
find that.
I'm gonna.
I
try
hope
to
it
look
don't
up
make
right
me
now.
feel like I'm crazy.
I think you're thinking about the chromosomes, the Y's and the X's, the chromosomes. So I think
I'm not sure. I just remember seeing this, you know, strip of stuff and the top pair is messed up. But anyway, so in my opinion, I think that's where, you know, the Anunnaki messed with us. The different races, in my humble opinion, are from the different races from outer space. You know, how can you get a black man from a white man? I'm just asking. And how could you get a pure white man, although they have albino blacks? How could you get a pure white man from a black person? And I'm not trying to be racist. I'm just saying. All the other races and things, you can kind of like, well, but to to get polar opposites and to have such things like the melatonin in their skin and stuff like that, which us white people just don't have. Can that actually be bred into us? You know, could we take black genes and put them into a white person? And I don't, in order for us to have, darker skin color and that kind of thing, or vice versa. You know, back in the day, Michael Jackson wanted to be white, and they used some kind of bleach compound on their skins to try to lighten their skins, to be more like white people. But I mean, genetically, I think the folks in Africa have been black for a long time. I don't think they came from someplace else and were modified to that. White people, I think, are the same way. The Europeans and further north, I think they were white from the get-go. They weren't although there is some evidence that we all came from a single pair.
Yeah. Well, but then again, that's what this goes back to the book. That's what makes the book so much believable, is because Ariel said, hey, you're all the same. The reason you got different colors is because those are like, brands. You know, one guy was branded black, one guy was white, one guy was red, etc., etc., etc. Because that's the brand, you know, because you were built, you know, you use the same mold and you were branded by a company. Which,
Yeah.
now here, I got this thing up before so we can get on with this. Is this what you're talking about? This is the thing about the DNA, and he talks about this creator thing in your DNA, and this is what the twisted thing you're talking about. Is it not?
I don't know. I can't see it on my screen. Wait, let me see. I got to learn how to. Wait a minute.
Since our binding size, proteins, deals suited to interact, cross shape of is Lucky. You probably know more about this than I would.
I'm looking it up, and I don't see any information it being only in humans.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's just not it.
It's in all kinds of cells. They want me the creator gene. I'm trying to go back to what they're talking about.
Okay. Well, maybe it wasn't that. Like I said, I'm just kind of stabbing in the dark, you know.
No, I'll have to find what the thing. It might be chromosomes, but I don't remember that being. Boy, that would be a really bad dream. Because I've had this picture in my head for a bunch of years. And if I'm wrong, boy, that's gonna ruin my picture.
It talks about the double helix. I don't think that's it. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to figure it all out for you. But
well, in the double helix, take a single one or whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's one. Let's move on because we don't know much about DNA anyway. We're not scientists. Pearl Jones
well, I was just saying that.
What? Go ahead. Well, it's something we have to investigate.
A mutation from black people.
Yeah, she says it's a mutation from black people, but we all know that most of the white people came from the north, and the black people came from the south. Because you just necessarily
from Africa mostly.
Yeah, and they kind of met in the middle. Now, why that is, I don't know. And then we have to. We just don't know what.
You're really messing with a lot of information there.
Okay,
we're all the same. Doesn't matter color, race. The Asians are dark skin or light skin. White and black. You're really, really isolating things that we are a race. It doesn't matter. We're all just different versions of the same thing. It's if you put black DNA into white people, you can. That's what we do when we mate.
It's true. This is true. See, this is why we got you here.
It doesn't matter. We're all the same thing. We're just different paint jobs.
Different paint. I agree on that. I'm just saying is, how did the people of the north always seem to be white and the people in the south always seem to be dark?
Well, the Inuit, they're dark skinned because they live on the snow, which is reflecting the sun off of them.
I agree with that too. My point was that.
But the lighter skin, you just less likely to get cancer. That's what happened. The dark skin, they were protected against the cancer, while us white people were in a bad place, which didn't have as much snow, but had less sunlight. So we needed less pigment, so we could absorb the sun for our vitamin D. Without vitamin D, we're dead. That's why we're light skinned. White people are a genetic abnormality, while the Asians have a much more rainbow. Us white people are definitely, green eyes are rare for a reason. Blue eyes are actually not as rare as green eyes, and there's a reason for it. I have green eyes, and we're a genetic abnormality.
Huh. See, I didn't know that.
No, what I was what I was suggesting.
Go ahead.
What I was suggesting is that the aliens who have been here, and that this group was more dark skinned, thus the Africans. These folks over here in the Americas, like the Hopi and so forth, more red skinned, because that's their originals. That's what their pigmentation was. I'm not saying that this about. I'm suggesting that's how we can get to these things. Simply, oh, you guys are darker. Oh, okay, you know, and you left a crew down here like the like Star Trek, and they have colonized this place. And there's from other UFOs, especially Dante. They've been around for a long time, and the Charistas has established um, different little conclaves all over the world in different places. And so they would be predominantly of one origin, because this is where this group came in and started this conclave. And from that, it worked out. So these could have been black, these could have been more brown, these could have been more red, is my point. Not that they were, but it's logical in my head. Oh, you guys come from the dog star. Okay. That's why you look that way. Okay.
So, so Lucky, on a biological thing, being a scientist guy, then
But all in all, I
do you think
that human beings were tinkered with.
well, yeah, but but Lucky, on a scientist-based question, then which race did they all originate from?
Africa.
Africa. So we at one point we all
That's where you find the predominant amount of the chromosomes. The main way of tracing is from the mother's mitochondrial DNA. The mitochondrial DNA comes from the mother, and they trace it all the way back to African tribes. We lose it here and there, but it all comes down to Africa. Even the far parts of Asia, you can track it down to the bones of Africans. It is our mother. And what we've done to Africa, the world could live off of, if Africa was an agricultural place, if it wasn't war there, the world could live off the food and become a very small part of Africa. Again, the problem is what's happening in Africa is what those in power, let's just say that Africa could save the world if we could just stop fighting in there, but we pay them to fight each other.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's hard to do research in there because they're fighting so much.
Do you think that we're encouraging the fighting so people can't find out the truth? Either one of you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much in Africa that we can't get to because of the wars.
David, you think that too?
Absolutely. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's done some stuff over the last few years of some of the strange circles that are in South Africa. There are these rings and
Yes. Michael Tellinger. Tellinger, isn't that? Yeah, Michael Tellinger.
Okay. I think and there's a lot of acoustic things and tones and stuff, and it's like, oh my God. And that ain't counting some of the ruins and things that are lost in the jungles in Africa. But and years ago, I did off on a tangent about Africa, and there was a get together of this particular tribe. I think it was more on the West Coast. I'm sorry, East Coast. And here are these, 500-600 people, men and women, and they got cell phones and everything, but the women are topless and the men are in little, grass skirts running around. And they're doing this ancient ritual that everybody's got together. So with all these semi-naked people running around and little children and everything was calm and peaceful. There was nothing going on. And I think to myself, here's 1,000 people at this function, and it was recorded. There were people doing, video and the dancing and stuff, and all the topless women. And you'd say, but they got cell phones. Aren't these people like worried that somebody's going to see them or something? No, because in their mind and who they are and how they grew up and that type of thing. And it's like, not necessarily do we need a bunch of people running around naked, but we need that sort of, camaraderie between people. And if you got to get naked to do it, okie dokie, but evidently mesmerized at how these people interacted. They were reenacting their tribalness, I guess, like Native Americans would do. But I mean, I just weird.
Here's some pictures of the stone circles.
But it was youngins.
If you, David, I don't know if you can see this, but here's some pictures of the stone circles. And you can see them best from the air, but you can really see they're all over South Africa there.
Yeah.
So anyway, they say there's thousands of these things. So the question is who was here way back in the day making these things? I mean, this took a lot of effort for people to make. They didn't just make these for fun. Don't tell me this is somebody's house, because when they made the stone circle, they made it round. There's no gate. You know what I mean? What was the point?
Yeah, they're like tuning forks.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just something to think about. What were they for? Who made them? We'll never know, because they were made thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago.
And they're obviously made.
Oh, yeah.
It's not some kind of, nature didn't do that.
Well, they got some of this stuff in Japan, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says here, the prehistoric sites in northern Japan. Huh, interesting.
Yeah, really.
Did not know they had prehistoric sites in Japan like that. There you go. Huh, interesting. Something with the Vikings. It took a lot of effort to move these stones. Have you ever tried to move a stone?
Yes.
And it takes a lot of work. You need a lot of guys. You just don't move a big stone like that with your wheelbarrow.
Unless you're a giant.
Yeah, if you're a giant big guy, you probably could move a stone. But here, you're not moving that stone anywhere just because. You're not piling them up and like that. These stones, you need big machinery. Big machinery. Look at here's a guy standing next to that stone. You better be a giant to move that stone, or better have 20 guys to move that stone.
But you could move it, but like the wagon to hold it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much engineering that goes not just with moving the stone, but moving it like from left to right or up and down. But I mean, some of these stones are toted miles.
Yeah, and look at this one. These are on the top of a hill. Look at, you can see out for miles there. You're going to take that stone and put it way up there? I don't think so. I don't think you're just going to haul it up there.
There's that one place, I think it's in the UK, where there's a bunch of, it's a hinge, but they're just stacked like for a mile or so, just across this field.
Yeah.
And some of them are bigger than others. And it's like, what are they there for?
Yeah, don't know. Why do people build these things?
That almost looks like a picture of a something, but
Yeah, you know, what the heck was it for? I don't know where this is at, but still, you know.
I think
Here's,
there's a lot of things that we don't know anymore. We have lost a lot of information.
well,
And
that's what
and
we
I
were saying. Is the only reason that we're trying to figure things out is because every time something happens, we lose the information, and the winners write the history. And this is what we read in the book. Ariel's trying to say, hey, all your history is messed up. Now, maybe that's the truth of that book. Maybe not the stuff she said happened or did happen or aliens created everything. But the truth part is that because that's what resonates with me is that, hey, she's saying the truth is kind of messed up. And I really agree with that. Yeah, I mean, no matter which way you look at it, that's the basis. Our history is kind of screwed, and we're trying every day. We try to figure it out, and something new comes up, like the little mummy people, or the bones in the cave, or the DNA, as you were talking about, Lucky. We are. Me and David are arguing over where people came from, and you're over there saying, "Listen, we're all human." You're right. We are. We're all human. And how we got this way, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it just seems that if if the black people we started all out as black, then there was quite the mutation into white versus because I sure don't look like a black person, and I don't have there's other people who are alabaster and they got the red hair and their skin is as white as a piece of paper. How'd you develop from that to that? It's like saying you're going to have a white tiger out of a bunch of yellow ones. And yes, it's a mutation, but to keep it going, that's a little hard to do. Anyway.
No, I want to make sure everybody understands. I believe that we are all human beings, okay? That we just have different ancestries, is all. That's all.
Yeah.
We're all human beings and we're all the same. We got slight differences here and there with A, B plus, A blood, whatever. But no, I believe that we are all human beings. Absolutely. But I just believe that long time ago when there were fewer of us, that we were visited by other spots and them folks stayed. I mean, there's evidence if you listen to Dante's channel, there's evidence with the Azazians and the Charistus that they've been here for a long, long, long time, and they came here in spaceships. They're still coming and going in spaceships. It hasn't changed, and they've been here for the last 10,000 years, and that's their history here on Earth. So it's like, okay, so my understanding of that and belief in that, then there got to be some other races who came down here and transplanted some other people. That's all.
No, I agree. We got one last thing I'm going to show you of my screen capture of the spaceship. And I don't know, it ain't very long, so
spaceships.
This is what I caught on film the other day. Oh, wait a minute. Stop. I did it wrong. Sorry. There we go. That's better.
Where in the sky was that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. Some kind of UFO thing.
Maybe.
It's just floating there.
And there you go. And it's about as fast as it came, it went. I mean, it wasn't there long. And the clouds passed by a little later. It was during 4th of July. People were shooting off fireworks, things like that. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, that's not a firework. I don't know what it is, but it was really, really far away. And so, and I see it wasn't moving. It was just kind of hovering there. And so I got my camera out, started videoing it. I zoomed in as close as I could. And then, you know, after I got done videoing it, it lasted a little bit longer, and then it just, poof, gone. It was just gone. And so, I mean, when you could see it really good, and I thought, well, maybe it's one of those floaty, you know, Chinese lanterns, you know what I'm saying? But it was way too bright. It was almost like a star, and that's how I noticed it. I'm like, black, that's a firework. Oh no, that's got to be an airplane. And it wasn't moving. And I'm like, well, that's too high up to be a firework. And it was a Chinese lantern. It would have been moving with the wind or going somewhere. It would have been going up or going to the side. It just sat there. I don't know. What do you think of that? I know Amber Dawn, she had one on the other day she was showing, and it looked very similar to mine, and that she had videotaped. So, yeah, who knows?
The concentric circles on the inside that kind of pulsate. Yeah. I've seen similar things like that. Years ago, I was standing outside about dusk, and Tallahassee's to my southwest a little bit from here. And there was this orange thing that started out of Tallahassee, and I'm just watching it. And I was like, well, that's a, you know, airplane or something, because Tallahassee's got an international airport, blah, blah, blah. Nope, there was no blinky lights around it, because there were other aircraft taken off that I could see in the sky that did have blinky lights, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching it, and it's coming closer, and it's getting almost over the house, and it gets just past straight overhead, and this really bright white sphere pops out of nowhere, shoots a laser at the orange one. The white one disappears, and the orange one just went poof. And I went, holy crap. And my guide said, you know, you've always wanted to see, you know, what's going on up there, and see, there's part of the war going on. You know, we blew one up right up there, right in front of you. And I was like, nobody's ever going to believe this, but I saw it with my own two eyes. And south of me, there is one of those, what is it? A triangle on both ends. You know, they share the base. Is that a tetrahedron?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's called a Merkaba when it's 3D, but two triangles on top of each other.
There are, I mean, you know, there are stones like that that are got a triangle. Anyway, it looks like that, but the thing is that it's the color change that it does. It goes through a green and a white and a red and a blue and a green and a white and a red and a blue, but it's shaped like this, you know, and it just sits there. But due south of me is the ocean.
Huh, wow. Well, a lot of stuff to take in. Well, we're hitting our hour and a half mark, people. So.
Oh, really? Ooh, this has been fun.
Yeah, it went so fast. I want to give a big shout out to Michelle K&M Free, Gaza Cab. Hope he sends me that footage. I'll play it next time. We'll probably have some more alien shows. I am going to get into, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this guy, and his name is Paul Wallace, Escaping from Eden. He's got multiple books out there. Scars of Eden, talks about Echoes of Eden, and his latest book, The Eden Conspiracy. So if you've read his books and like that stuff, we're going to go through some of that this next week. It kind of deals with aliens, the Bible, the whole 9 yards. If you want to join me for some of that, have his book, you want to talk about it, let me know. I'll send you a link. It'll be a lot of fun. Good stuff to talk about, interesting things and facts that we could research. It should be a blast. So join me with that. And remember, go and join Nina the Mystic tomorrow night for Sin Day Live, where she's going to have Diane Martino on. And then, of course, join me and David back here on Tuesday nights for Native American Myths and Legends. And
can I wrap up something before we go?
Yes, go right ahead.
As far as people are waiting on disclosure, my friends, disclosure is going on every day. There are alien vehicles that are being photographed all over the world, and I mean, and these are like looking like real showing up alien UFOs, and not only that, but the government's trying to put out stuff, and then they're withholding stuff. Listen, we are in about AI in the movies, and as many of us know, the movies project a lot of what's going on, and so just for folks who are waiting on the disclosure, you who know who the dark journalist is, you know, and other folks, NASA saying, oh, here's a biggie, $1 worth of metal. Okay. And they're talking about how they would mine this asteroid. Now, if they can't get a space shuttle out from outer space, how are they going to bring in an asteroid? How are they going to mine it? Now, pay attention to this. They would mine it if there were facilities on the moon. And one of the things that people have been seeing out in the atmosphere looks like this great big giant lens. And I submit that there is a Fresnel type lens that is out there in space, and it's kind of been seen on some of these radars over the last few years too, by the way, and that this thing is a giant furnace. So how can they make vehicles? You know, but they can't be taking this stuff up and down, in and out of space if they're building a secret, you know, space program. They'd be building it in outer space. So I contend that there's already a furnace up in outer space, because that would explain what that Fresnel looking thing is that shows up every once in a while in our atmosphere and looks like another sun. But it's got a focal point. So what about at the other end of it is a giant furnace for melting exotic metals in space that can't be produced here on Earth because of gravity. And so the moon would be the perfect place. And we want to go back, but we can't because there's aliens there. But why would they talk about wanting to grab this asteroid and mine it? How are they going to get the metal back to Earth? It burned up. Where are they going to bring it in? I mean, the idea of mining it does not make sense from an Earth standpoint. But mining an asteroid makes, drag it over and just kind of leisure. So anyway, in the news just yesterday was how this $250 billion worth of metal in the. How you going to get it here? I'm sorry. How you going to get it here?
Yeah.
Just stop and think about it.
You make a good
So
point.
there's more going on than what meets the eye, is my point. Why would they talk about mining an asteroid when we can't use it down here? Something else is going on.
I totally agree. I totally agree. David, you got a show tonight after this?
I don't know, maybe if I feel
Maybe.
froggy.
Okay. Usually I wind you up and then you do. So anyway, Lucky, don't forget people to go over to Lucky's channel and subscribe over there and watch some of his cat videos, because that seems to be the popular thing, trains and cats.
Thank you, Lucky.
But he's got a lot of good stuff going on over there. Listen to some of the stuff he has to say. For our enlightened group, he has a very good wisdom to share with all of you, even if the most videos he gets are from cats.
Garbage. Yes. I have garbage videos.
Garbage videos.
Trust I live with people. That's it. I have too many subscribers. What are you watching?
Had to make fun of that one. But anyway, people, I remember it's going to be a great week. We're going to have good stuff for you, and we're going to go join Mina tomorrow, David and Mina Tuesday, and Lucky every day for some video of some sort. It's either trains, cats, or wise wisdom.
Wise wisdom or trash. That's what I'll just produce.
There you go. Wise wisdom gets no views. Trash gets them all.
Trash gets all the vision. Yeah, trash gets all the vision. Well, the wise
I
stuff. Yeah, once in a while.
I don't have any cats, so maybe I'll have to do dog videos. Stupid dog videos.
It'll work. It'll work.
Okay, with that, everyone, remember, go out, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all. And remember, do something nice for your neighbor, somebody else, and even take some time and do something for you, because that makes you feel good and you radiate it out to everybody else. So remember, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.